Hello, this is Chris Sy with Carlisle Wide Plank Floors, and today we're going to talk about one of the most common issues with finishing an oak floor. Typically, before you put on your stain or your finish, you're going to sand your oak floor, and often that can result in scratches or sanding marks or swirl marks, they're called, across the boards that you actually don't see until you begin to finish the floor. You can see here, after we've stained this red oak board a darker brown color, that you really begin to see some of these scratches come out. That's caused by the sanding process and is something we're going to learn how to eliminate today. Here you have a freshly sanded piece of oak, and it appears to be well sanded without any scratches in the finish. However, one great way to test whether or not your floor has been properly sanded is to take a rag damp with mineral spirits and rub it over the area that you just sanded. By making that wood wet, you're going to see whether or not there's still scratches in the oak. You don't want to use water, as that's going to swell the grain and make the finish take differently. Mineral spirits will reveal the scratches and will evaporate quickly so that you can continue the finishing process. In order to eliminate the scratch marks in your oak floor that can be caused by sanding, you want to make sure you follow the proper progression of grits. Typically, to sand an oak floor, you start with a 60 or an 80 grit sandpaper. If you start with an 80 grit, you want to make sure that you go to the next grit available, which is 100 grit. And then to the next grit after that, which would be 120 grit. The reason you typically see scratches in an oak floor after sanding is that somebody skips a grit in the progression. So I may start with 80, but I jump all the way to 120 or 150 grit. By skipping that 100 grit, I've left the scratches into the oak floor. So you want to start with 80, go to 100, onto 120, and then if you really want to make sure that your floor has all the scratches eliminated, you can use a random orbital sander with a very fine grit, 150 or 180 grit sandpaper. By going through this 4 or 5 step progression, you're really going to ensure that the scratches are eliminated from your oak floor. This is an example of a finely finished oak floor. Again, this is Chris Sy. I hope that the sanding tips we've shared with you today help you achieve the results you want in your oak floor.